At the 2024 International Science Fair, an unexpected encounter unfolded between Elon Musk and 11-year-old Prisha Sharma, a moment no one saw coming. Prisha wasn't your average fifth grader. With an IQ of 195, surpassing Albert Einstein's estimated 160, she was a quiet girl from San Jose who loved science and reading. But she had spotted a critical flaw in Musk's Neuralink brain chip, a detail his entire team of expert scientists had overlooked. Instead of dismissing her, Elon did something astonishing. He leaped off the stage, asked to see her notebook, and admitted she was right. What followed reshaped their lives forever. Elon recognized that Prisha's unique way of thinking could be the key to helping humanity keep pace with artificial intelligence. Few knew this chance meeting was about to spark a clandestine project that would redefine the future of human intellect. In the vast conference center in Austin, Prisha sat nervously in the back row, her small hands clutching a blue notebook. The room buzzed with anticipation as nearly 2,000 attendees awaited Elon Musk's appearance at the 2024 International Science Fair. "Are you okay?" whispered Mrs. Gonzalez, Prisha's science teacher. "You look pale." Prisha nodded but stayed silent. How could she explain the butterflies in her stomach? Just a month ago, she was an ordinary fifth grader at Lincoln Elementary in San Jose. Now, the world called her the smartest girl alive. It all started with an IQ test. Lincoln Elementary had been part of a university study on childhood intelligence, requiring all fifth graders to participate. Prisha thought nothing of it, just another dull school activity. But 3 weeks later, the principal summoned her parents for an urgent meeting. "We've never seen scores like this," the university psychologist told them, her voice filled with awe. Prisha's IQ was 195, far above Einstein's estimated 160. Life changed overnight. Reporters camped outside their modest apartment, her face appeared on morning shows, and scientists wanted to study her brain. It was overwhelming and terrifying. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice boomed through the speakers, snapping Prisha back to the present, "please welcome the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, Mr. Elon Musk." The crowd erupted in applause as a tall man in a black t-shirt and jeans stepped onto the stage. Prisha had seen him on TV countless times, but in person, he seemed more human, less like the superhero from her comic books. "Thank you for the warm welcome," Elon said, his slight accent making his words sound distinct to Prisha, different from the adults she knew. "I'm thrilled to be here with so many brilliant minds shaping our future." For the next 20 minutes, Elon spoke about his companies, showing videos of SpaceX rockets landing back on Earth and discussing Tesla's new solar roofs that could power entire neighborhoods. Then he turned to Neuralink. "We're developing technology to help people with brain injuries regain movement and speech," he explained as images of tiny computer chips appeared on the giant screen behind him. Eventually, these brain-computer interfaces could help humans keep up with artificial intelligence. Prisha leaned forward, suddenly alert. She had read everything she could find about Neuralink after stumbling across an online article. The technology fascinated her, wires thinner than a human hair, inserted into the brain to record and stimulate neural activity. "The latest version of our chip will be ready for human trials next year," Elon continued. "We believe it's completely safe and will help thousands with paralysis communicate again." Prisha frowned. Something wasn't right. She had noticed an issue in the technical papers published on Neuralink's website, something that troubled her. "Any questions?" Elon asked, wrapping up his presentation. Hands shot up across the audience. A woman with a microphone began weaving through the crowd, stopping at people Elon pointed to. After addressing questions about Mars missions and electric cars, Elon scanned the back of the room. "Let's hear from someone in the back," he said. "How about the young lady in the blue dress?" Prisha froze as the woman with the microphone approached her. Mrs. Gonzalez gave her a gentle nudge. "Go on," the teacher whispered. "You can do this." Prisha stood on shaky legs, the microphone heavy in her small hands. "Hi," she said, her voice higher than usual. "My name is Prisha Sharma." "Hello, Prisha," Elon replied with a smile. What would you like to ask? Prisha took a deep breath. She wished her parents were here, but her dad couldn't take time off from his programming job, and her mom was working double shifts at the hospital. Mr. Musk, she began, her voice growing steadier, I think there's a major problem with your Neuralink chip design. The room, filled with murmurs and the clacking of laptop keys, fell silent. Elon tilted his head, his smile fading slightly. What kind of problem? He asked. With the materials used to coat the chips, Prisha continued. The published papers show you're using a polymer compound that might cause inflammation in brain tissue over time. In about 3 years, it could start breaking down, releasing tiny particles that could damage neurons. The audience turned to stare at her. Prisha felt her cheeks burn but pressed on. I did some research on biocompatible materials, and I think there's a better option that would last longer without causing inflammation. Elon Musk stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a terrifying moment, Prisha thought he might laugh or brush off her concerns. Instead, he asked, How old are you, Prisha? 11, sir. I'm in 5th grade. A man in a suit leaned over and whispered something to Elon. His eyes widened. You're the girl who was on the news recently, he asked into the microphone. The one with the exceptional IQ test results. Prisha nodded, wishing she could disappear. She hated being known for that test, it made her feel like an exhibit in a zoo, something for people to gawk at. Something shifted in Elon's demeanor. He handed his microphone to an assistant and jumped off the stage. The crowd buzzed with surprise as he made his way down the center aisle toward Prisha, people pulling out their phones to capture the moment. Prisha stood frozen as Elon Musk, one of the most famous people in the world, stopped right in front of her. You actually read our technical papers? He asked, his voice softer now, without the microphone. Yes, sir, Prisha replied. I found them online. It's really interesting science. And you understand the chemistry of polymer coatings? Mostly, she answered honestly. I had to look up some terms. Elon's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled, a genuine smile that made him seem more like an ordinary dad than a billionaire. Do you have any notes on this issue you found? He asked. Prisha nodded and opened her blue notebook, revealing neat sketches and notes in her careful handwriting, diagrams showing how the polymer might degrade over time and suggestions for alternative materials. Elon took the notebook, flipping through the pages intently. The entire conference center watched in silence as this unusual scene unfolded. After what felt like an eternity, Elon looked up, his face serious. This is remarkable, he said. I think you're right. He turned to the stage, where his team watched with puzzled expressions. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, his voice carrying through the quiet room, I think we've just witnessed something extraordinary. This young lady may have identified a critical flaw in our design that our entire engineering team missed. He turned back to Prisha. We need to talk more about this. Would you be willing to share these notes with my team? Prisha nodded, too stunned to speak. No one in the audience could have predicted what would happen next, how this chance encounter would forever change both Prisha's life and the future of Neuralink. Everyone in the room turned to look at Prisha. A spotlight operator, sensing the significance of the moment, directed a bright beam her way. Prisha felt her cheeks flush under the sudden attention of 2,000 pairs of eyes. My name is Prisha Sharma. I'm 11 years old, she said, her soft but clear voice echoing through the silent auditorium. A woman in a sharp business suit hurried to Elon and whispered something to him. His eyebrows shot up, and he looked at Prisha with renewed interest. You're the girl with an IQ of 195, he asked into a microphone someone handed him. The question boomed through the speakers, making Prisha flinch. She nodded reluctantly, she hated being defined by that number, it made her feel like a math problem, not a person. Mrs. Gonzalez placed a reassuring hand on Prisha's shoulder. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, the teacher whispered, but Elon was already continuing. That's higher than Einstein's estimated IQ, he told the audience. And she just pointed out a potential flaw in our Neuralink chip that our entire engineering team overlooked. He turned to Prisha. I'd like to hear more about this issue. Prisha took a deep breath. She wished her parents weren't at work, her mom at the hospital, her dad at his programming job, but she had practiced explaining scientific concepts in her school science club. She could do this. I noticed in your papers that the polymer coating on the chip has a structure similar to materials that show signs of microdegradation in wet environments, she explained, her voice growing stronger as she focused on the science and forgot the crowd. The brain is very sensitive to foreign particles, even tiny ones. If the coating breaks down in 3 or 4 years, it could cause inflammation and damage the neurons around the chip. Elon listened with full attention, something adults rarely gave children. He didn't interrupt or smile condescendingly, as many adults did when kids tackled complex topics. Go on, he encouraged when she paused. Prisha flipped to another page in her notebook. I drew a diagram of what might happen, she said, showing him a detailed sketch of the chip with arrows pointing to the problem areas. And here, she continued, turning to another page, I found studies on alternative materials that might work better. They've been tested in long-term implantable medical devices. Elon studied her notes, flipping the pages back and forth. The room remained utterly silent, even the event organizers froze, unsure how to proceed with the schedule as Elon Musk had jumped off the stage to talk to a 5th grader. This is impressive work, Elon finally said, looking up from the notebook. How did you get interested in neural interfaces? I read about Neuralink in a science journal, Prisha explained, and then I found all the papers on your website. I love learning about how the brain works. Last year, for a science fair, I built a simple EEG device that could tell when I was focused or relaxed. You built an EEG device at 10 years old? Elon asked, genuine surprise in his voice. Prisha nodded. With help from my dad, he's a programmer but knows electronics too. Mrs. Gonzalez couldn't hold back any longer. Prisha won the state science fair with that project, she exclaimed proudly. The judges couldn't believe a 5th grader made it. Elon turned to the teacher. You're Prisha's science teacher. Mrs. Gonzalez, Lincoln Elementary in San Jose, she replied, extending her hand. Elon shook it, then turned back to Prisha. The way you think is incredible, he said. You didn't just understand the technical aspects of our design. You connected it to research in other fields and identified potential long-term consequences we missed. Prisha looked down at her shoes, uncomfortable with the praise. At school, her way of thinking often made other kids call her weird or a know-it-all. Teachers sometimes got annoyed when she asked too many questions or pointed out textbook errors. I just see how things connect, she said quietly. Sometimes I can't stop thinking about problems until I solve them. Something flashed in Elon's eyes, perhaps recognition. He nodded slowly. I know exactly what you mean. He turned to address the audience, who watched the exchange with rapt attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we need to adjust our program. I'd like to invite Prisha to join me on stage to discuss her ideas for Neuralink. This is the kind of innovative thinking we came here to celebrate. A wave of excited murmurs swept through the crowd, phones raised high to record the moment. Panic rose in Prisha's chest. I don't think, she stammered. Elon seemed to sense her unease. He leaned closer, lowering his voice so only she and Mrs. Gonzalez could hear. You don't have to if you don't want to. But your ideas matter, and people should hear them. Sometimes the youngest minds see solutions others miss. Mrs. Gonzalez nodded encouragingly. It's up to you, Prisha. But I think you'd be amazing. Prisha thought of all the times she stayed silent in class, not wanting to seem different, and all the questions she never asked, afraid to stand out. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Okay, she said. I'll try. Elon smiled, a real smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Great. He turned to an assistant who hurried down from the stage. Get Ms. Sharma a chair and a microphone. And we need her notebook projected on the screen. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur. Prisha found herself sitting on stage beside Elon Musk, her notebook pages displayed on the giant screen behind them. Her voice trembled at first as she explained her concerns about the Neuralink chip, but as she focused on the science, her nerves faded. Elon asked thoughtful questions and explained parts of the technology to the audience, treating Prisha like a colleague, not a child. When she suggested alternative materials for the chip's coating, he called up one of his engineers from the audience to discuss feasibility. Dr. Chen, what do you think of using the compound Prisha suggests? He asked a woman who joined them on stage. Dr. Lily Chen, head of biocompatibility research, studied Prisha's notes with a furrowed brow. These are actually very intriguing suggestions, she said, surprised. We considered something similar early in development but moved away from it due to manufacturing challenges. She looked at Prisha with newfound respect. Your approach to addressing those challenges is quite innovative. We might need to revisit this. When the impromptu discussion ended, the audience erupted in applause. Prisha felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had never spoken to so many people before. As they left the stage, Elon stopped her. Prisha, would you and your teacher mind waiting for me after the session? I'd like to discuss something with you. Prisha nodded, wondering what could possibly come next. This day was already the strangest of her life. She had no idea it was about to get even stranger. 30 minutes later, Prisha and Mrs. Gonzalez waited in a small conference room backstage. The walls were lined with posters from past science fairs, and untouched trays of cookies and fruit sat on a table in the corner. You were phenomenal, Mrs. Gonzalez said, adjusting her glasses. I've never seen a student handle themselves so professionally. Prisha fidgeted with the edge of her notebook. Do you think Mr. Musk was just being nice? Maybe my ideas aren't that good. Trust me, Prisha, Elon Musk doesn't waste time on politeness unless there's something valuable to discuss, her teacher replied. The door opened, cutting her off. Elon walked in, followed by Dr. Chen and two others Prisha didn't recognize, a tall man with curly hair in a SpaceX t-shirt and a woman in a sharp suit who looked important. Sorry to keep you waiting, Elon said, pulling out a chair across from Prisha. Things got a bit hectic after our talk. He placed Prisha's notebook on the table between them. I wanted to speak with you privately because your ideas are incredibly valuable. Dr. Chen nodded. We reviewed your notes more closely. Your concerns about polymer degradation are valid. In fact, we've seen some anomalous data in our long-term studies that might support your theory. Prisha's eyes widened. She hadn't expected them to take her ideas so seriously. I'm Vijay Patel, the man in the SpaceX shirt said, extending his hand. I head materials science at Neuralink. And I'm Sandra Morris, COO, added the woman in the suit. Prisha shook their hands, feeling overwhelmed. These were important people with significant roles, and they treated her like she mattered. Elon leaned forward, his expression serious. Prisha, I brought everyone here because I want to make you an offer, or rather, a challenge. Mrs. Gonzalez shifted in her seat. What kind of challenge? I'd like to invite Prisha to spend a week visiting our Neuralink lab in California, Elon explained. She'd work with our team to address the issues she identified and help us improve the chip's design. Prisha's mouth fell open. Work with Neuralink? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. She's 11 years old, Mr. Musk, Mrs. Gonzalez said cautiously. She's still in elementary school. I'm well aware, Elon replied, and that's what makes this so interesting. Prisha sees problems and solutions that experts with decades of experience miss. Her brain works differently, connecting ideas in ways most of us can't. He turned to Prisha. That's a rare and valuable gift. Prisha felt her face warm at the praise. For most of her life, she'd felt different, and it had been a burden. Kids at school called her a weird brain or robot girl, because she solved math problems quickly but struggled to understand their jokes or games. Of course, we'd ensure everything is handled appropriately, Dr. Chen added. Prisha's parents could accompany her. We'd limit her work to 4 hours a day, and she'd be paired with me the entire time. What exactly would I do? Prisha asked quietly. You'd help us rethink our approach to the chip's coding, Vijay explained. We'll show you our current designs, testing procedures, and the data we've collected. You'll be part of our brainstorming sessions and help us evaluate potential solutions. Like a real scientist? Prisha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Exactly like a real scientist, Elon confirmed, because that's what you are, Prisha, not someday in the future, but right now. Mrs. Gonzalez appeared concerned. This is a significant decision. We'll need to consult Prisha's parents, and we must consider her school commitments. Of course, Sandra replied. We've thought about that. Spring break begins next week in San Jose schools, we believe. We'll cover all expenses for Prisha and her parents. Prisha couldn't contain her excitement. Spring break was indeed starting next week. She had planned to stay home, reading new books her dad had bought her, maybe working on some coding projects. Instead, she could be at Neuralink, contributing to technology that might help people with paralysis or brain injuries. Are you ready for this? Elon asked, locking eyes with her. His gaze was intense, as if he could see into her mind. Prisha hesitated. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, but another part felt scared. What if she couldn't help them? What if they realized she wasn't as smart as they thought? You don't have to decide right now, Dr. Chen said gently. We understand this is sudden. Prisha took a deep breath. She thought of all the times she held back in class, afraid of seeming too different, and all the ideas she never shared, not wanting to stand out. Perhaps it was time to stop hiding. I want to do this, she said, her voice steadier than she expected. If my parents say it's okay. Elon grinned broadly. Excellent. We'll arrange everything with your parents. He pulled out his phone and handed it to Mrs. Gonzalez. If you could provide their contact information. This concludes our narrative journey. I trust you found this gripping saga of intrigue, cutting-edge innovation, and astonishing discoveries captivating. From where are you tuning in today? I'm curious to learn which corner of the globe this tale has touched. If this escapade held your interest, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for a steady stream of compelling, mind-expanding stories just like this one. Fresh material is posted frequently, ensuring you're always in the loop for the newest spellbinding adventures. Be sure to pass this video along to your loved ones and friends. It's a great way to share positivity and insight while expanding our circle of story enthusiasts. Your encouragement is invaluable. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to welcoming you back for the next tale.